What is up, guys? Lundick here, and now I'm back with another edition of Lundick's Fear Fives. And we're going to have an interesting topic this week. I think you guys might find this one a lot of fun, and it's going to be top 5 guilty pleasure wrestlers. Now, this one was suggested a while back by a guy called Mr. Wrestling Fanatic. He did that in one of my other videos, so just a shout out to him. That's the guy you should subscribe to. He's a fairly new YouTuber. He does kind of videos like I do, like slides and audio, but he doesn't really have many subscribers yet. But he's got pretty good opinions. He's a pretty good guy, so definitely check him out. So there you go. That's my good deed for the day. So what is a guilty pleasure wrestler, you may ask? Well, it's basically, for me, it's a guy that maybe it's not so popular to like, or maybe it's someone weird to like, but I like him for my own reasons, and I enjoy a certain wrestler that other people don't. Sorry about that, someone just phoned me, so I can't remember where I was. Yeah, I was talking about guilty pleasure wrestlers, wasn't I? So, yeah, basically that's what it's good. This is going to be fun, this one, I think. We're just going to have a little bit of a laugh and enjoy ourselves in this video. So, let's get to it. Number 5 is Bob Hardcore Holly. Now, Hardcore Holly, probably one of the most unpopular guys in the IWC for a while, and there was this image about him and all that. But I always liked the guy. I always thought he was a good worker, a decent talker, he looked good. He was around for a long time. I think he's kind of one of those unsung heroes of the WWE. I mean, for a really successful roster to work, you need all your players, you need your stars, and you need your utility guys that are going to make other guys look good and be good in the mid-card. And that's what Bob Holly was. Bob Holly was never a top guy or anything like that, and he was never going to be. But Bob Holly was always a guy that was always great to have around, because he was great at making other guys look good. He could have a solid match with pretty much anyone. He always looked good, always worked hard, and always did a good job of putting the young guys over. And like I say, he was around for a long ass time, from 1994 to 2009. So he had a 15-year run in WWE, and he was there for New Generation, Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era, right at the very beginning of the PG era. So he'd seen a lot of people come, he's seen a lot of people go. Obviously, he came in as a race car driver, Furman Sparky Plug in 1994. And I guess for the time, this was 94, 95, so chances are, if you're a new wrestler coming to the company at that time, you weren't just going to be a wrestler in boots and tights. You're going to have a gimmick. So, whether that was Duke the Dumpster Droese, the wrestling garbage man, or Jean-Pierre Lafitte, the wrestling pirate. Yes, that was actually a thing. Henry Godwin, the wrestling pig farmer. Isaac Yankem, DDS, the monster wrestling dentist. So, because in real life, Holly had done some stuff with race cars and stuff, so they took that and they made it into a gimmick. And for the time, yeah, it was probably a bit cheesy, but it was 1994, 1995. And then I remember enjoying some of his stuff, some of his work there. I remember really enjoying him and the 1-2-3 Kid were in the WWF Tag Team Title Tournament, replacing the Smoking Guns. And they got all the way at the finals and won the tag team titles at Royal Rumble 1995 over Bam Bam Bigelow and Tatanka. And then the next night on Raw, they lost the belts to the Smoking Guns, which I always thought was kind of disappointing. I always thought that kid, 1-2-3 Kid Bob Holly thing could have actually done quite well for a while. Even if they'd like stretch it out to maybe WrestleMania 11 or something like that. But it wasn't to be, and then Bob Holly pretty much went back to his mid-card role at the time, popping up here and there, notably putting over Triple H, his first ever WWE pay-per-view match at SummerSlam 1995. I remember for some random ass reason, lasting like 40 minutes in the 1996 Royal Rumble, which I thought was kind of strange. I mean, it was not like Bob Holly was getting a push at the time, but he managed to last in the Royal Rumble for a long time and I don't even think he eliminated anybody. He might have done, but I don't remember him eliminating anybody. But I do remember who eliminated him, some fella named the Ringmaster. Then we got into it down the line. Then pretty much faded out, 96, 97, came back as a part of the Midnight Express in the new Midnight Express in 1998, and I kind of feel like Bob Holly and Bart Gunn were just Bob Holly and Bart Gunn with a different gimmick. It probably would have been moderately successful, but they were never ever going to be the Midnight Express, and it was part of the Job Squad. And then when he became Hardcore Holly in 1999, I think that's when he started really shining. I mean, he got himself a pretty damn solid spot in the mid-card of the Attitude Era. I mean, I always felt like him and Al Snow had a really underrated feud in 1999. And then he did the whole thing where he was a Big Shot. Briefly feud with the Big Show and Kane for a little bit. That was kind of interesting. Then Crash Holly was brought in. Then we got the Holly Cousins of 99, early 2000, which was kind of fun. And then after that, he'd pretty much settled into his role where he was a mid-carder. I mean, in the early 2000s, like, a guy would often come up and they'd often wrestle Bob Holly early on. And that was really a test them to see if they could take punishment and hang in the wrestling business. I mean, Randy Orton's a notable example. When Randy Orton first came up, he wrestled Bob Holly a lot on house shows. And it was basically to see how tough Randy could be. Because Bob Holly got this reputation, because Bob Holly was stiff in the ring, right? And he was always rough in the ring. But he was never unsafe. That's the thing, like, he gets a bad rap. But he was never ever unsafe at all. I mean, yeah, he'd rough some guys up, but Jesus Christ, it's wrestling. It's not ballet. But Bob Holly never actually hurt anybody to the point where they couldn't wrestle the next day. He never broke anybody's nose. He never broke anybody's arm. Smashed someone's jaw, anything like that. He was stiff, and he liked to give it back. You know. And then later on in the 2000s, he was in ECW. I thought that was a really good run from on that brand. Probably favourite match he ever had was that one of RVD in 2006. You're the one where he sliced his back open on the announcer's table. And then, yeah, for the rest of his run, he was just that veteran. I mean, the last real notable thing he did was tag teaming up with Cody Rhodes very early in Cody's career, actually. I mean, Cody was like 21, 22 at the time, so real young. So that worked. I kind of enjoyed the Rhodes and Holly tag team for a little while. Then Holly was off TV in 2008, left the company in 2009, and that was it. Pretty decent career. I also had a pretty decent career all round. I mean, I think the bar's being lowered on the WWE Hall of Fame nowadays with the likes of Hillbilly Jim and people like that getting in, on The Godfather. So why not Hardcore Holly? I'm sure Hardcore Holly could go on the WWE Hall of Fame someday. Maybe that's just me, but I did really like this guy, so he's in the list. Coming in at number 4, and yes, that's right, the Boogeyman. I know that you probably think I'm an absolute weirdo now, but whatever. I don't really give a shit about that, to be honest with you. I am pretty much a big freak. I mean, I'm a grown man talking about wrestling on YouTube. I'm not a cool person. Let's just put that out there right now. But the Boogeyman, I don't know why. Maybe I'm just strange, but I thought this one, the definition of so bad it was actually awesome. Cause the Boogeyman sucked. He was terrible in the ring. His gimmick was pretty stupid, but it was hilarious. It really was. I mean, I have a theory: if you're going to do something stupid, you might as well go absolutely batshit insane. Don't go half in, go all in out ridiculousness. And this is kind of what the Boogeyman was. It was one of the stupidest concepts you've ever come up with. But the guy was kind of charismatic and kind of made it work. It's just a shame he was an absolutely horrible wrestler, to be honest with you. I mean, it was kind of like Papa Shango, but like an more outrageous version of Papa Shango. So, Boogeyman, real name is Marty Wright, and how he got his start in the wrestler business was trying out for Tough Enough. I think it was the 4th one. Do you not the one on MTV, the one on they did on SmackDown throughout 2004, the one that Daniel Puder won, the one that brought The Miz into the world as well. And this guy was this big, muscular black guy who had a hell of a lot of personality. So you think, this guy could maybe make a WWE superstar. However, he was disqualified from the competition. And why was he disqualified from the competition? And that's for falsifying his age. On his application form and all that, the guy claimed he was 30 years old, but the truth was he was actually 40 years old. And when WWE found this out, they eliminated him from the competition. However, because I guess because he thought the personality was there, they then actually signed him to a developmental contract not too long after this, and then came up with in OVW, came up with the outrageous character of the Boogeyman. Oh my god, this was, I'm the Boogeyman, and I'm coming to get you. So then he had that fame, he had that big staff thing, he would smash a clock over his head, he would do this weird little walk to the ring thing, but the biggest thing, Boogeyman had a thing for eating worms. That's right, actual live worms. Now, I'm going to assume that all these worms were real. I mean, I'm not really sure how he could fake worms. I mean, you saw them on the screen, they wiggled around, they moved around, so they weren't like stationary or anything. So I'm going to assume these are actually always real worms, and the guy just suffered for our entertainment. So then, if he was on SmackDown in 2005, I mean, and like I say, absolutely terrible in the ring. I mean, really, like, legit probably one of the, I would say if you put like the 50 worst wrestlers of all time in the ring, the Boogeyman would definitely be on that list for sure. I mean, I don't recall WWE ever letting him have a match more than 5 minutes, but the character was just so much fun and entertaining. I mean, he even had a feud with JBL of all people at the Royal Rumble 2006, and even had a WrestleMania match. He faced Booker T and Sharmell at WrestleMania 22, and the whole storyline was pretty hilarious, to be honest with you, of him. Booker T constantly running away from the Boogeyman and all that here. And then he lasted probably about another year, maybe, I guess, because then he ended up on ECW brand in about 2007. And then he didn't really do much after that, but every time he's on screen it was always entertaining. I think he left the company in about 2008, something like that. And because I think the sort of character, once you've seen it and once you've done it, what more can you really do? How many worms can he eat? You can't really eat any more worms, can he? And you do the storyline where the heel's afraid of you. You can only do that so many times. But after that, he would come back for little appearances here and there. I mean, he's even competed in a couple of Royal Rumble matches since then. I think he's like showed up on Raw reunions and shit like that, like nostalgia Raws and things like that. And I think he could, because he still actually looks really like his body in that. He still actually looks really good. But for me, I enjoyed the hell out of this character. Yeah, it was dumb. Yeah, it was stupid, but it was entertaining. Oh, and he ate a big growth on somebody's face. So there you go. Coming up number 3, and I guess I'm technically cheating. I guess, but it's my video, and there's no real set rules here, to be honest with you. And number 3 is the Smoking Guns. So I've gone for tag team. So I guess technically it's a fair of 6, but because they're a tag team, I'll lump them all into one section here. So yeah, I mean the Smoking Guns. You've got to realise for this one, I was been watching wrestling since 1992. So I grew up in the 1990s. So I was watching wrestling then as a kid, and you got to remember, so this is like 94, 95, 96. Just imagine being a kid watching wrestling that time. Let's be honest, you're not really spoilt for choice when you have good tag teams. Are your really favourite tag teams? I mean, I guess when I first started watching wrestling, like in 1992, I still had the Legion of Doom, I still had the Natural Disasters, the Nasty Boys, Money Inc. And then I guess in 93 there was the Steiner Brothers and the Head Shrinkers. But then in the new generation era, let's be honest, the tag team division was pretty awful. I mean, as an example, they had to take 2 single stars, Yokozuna and Owen Hart, and put them together to make a tag team. But there was one tag team I thought was really good, and that was the Smoking Guns. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting Smoking Guns are one of the best tag teams of all time or anything like that. But I think for the time they were there, they were really good, they were really solid. And I guess one of the reasons I liked them as a kid was probably, I guess, the cowboy thing. I probably thought the cowboy gimmick was kind of cool at the time. But in a gimmick era like the one they were in, I guess being wrestling cowboys was probably one of the better ones to have. I mean, especially when we've got like Mantas and Garbage Men and dentists and pirates and all that weird shit. Being wrestling cowboys probably wasn't so bad. I mean, they built up through 93 and 94. I think they all seem to have solid matches. I mean, I don't remember many shitty Smoking Guns matches. Then in 1995 they won the tag team titles. The night after the Royal Rumble 1995, lose them to Yokozuna and Owen Hart at WrestleMania 11, but they'd win the titles back later on in the year, and then they had an alright little feud with the Body Donners. I mean, to go into wrong. So probably some of my favourite Guns matches were the one with Kid and Holly after Royal Rumble 1995. So probably the best match of theirs I remember seeing is the one with Razor Ramon and 1-2-3 Kid at In Your House Great White North. The one they had with the Body Donners at Royal Rumble 1996 was pretty decent. Then they had a heel run in 1996, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, started out with good guy Cowboys, then they became evil Cowboys, I guess, when Sonny turned on the Godwins, side of the Smoke Guns. They did a thing where Billy Gunn was now banging Sonny, apparently. And the only problem is, really, in 1996, the tag division was literally the Smoking Guns, the Godwins, the Body Donners, and the New Rockers. That was your tag team division, so I think they did the best, but ultimately didn't have that many exciting matches during that period because of the guys who were faced. They really just weren't that interesting. But yeah, like I said, I always enjoyed the Smoking Guns, definitely as a kid. And even looking back now, I can say, pretty good tag team, because I always thought, like, Billy Gunn especially was an awesome, well, not an awesome tag team wrestler, but a really good tag team wrestler. And of course, he went on to massive fame later on, teamed with the Road Dogg and the New Age Outlaws and DX in the Attitude Era. And Bart Gunn, I always thought was solid. I mean, he was a pretty impressive looking guy. Didn't have much personality, but obviously he was a tough guy because he won the Brawl for All. But that didn't really go anywhere, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think as a tag team, they were really, really good. And they did split up in 1996 after losing the tag belts to Owen Hart and the British Bulldog in Your House Mind Games. And like I say, different careers. Bart Gunn was pretty much gone in 99, and Billy Gunn did the New Age Outlaws thing and was around about 2004. So yeah, like I say, I really like the Smoking Guns, and they're on this list. Coming in number 2, we're going quite recent, and we're going with Sheamus. That's right, I'm a low-key Sheamus fan. I mean, I really am. I mean, a lot of people might be surprised to hear that, but it's true. I've always enjoyed this guy. I always liked him. I always thought he definitely, at times anyway, got a bad rap from the IWC, YWC. But yeah, I've just always enjoyed this guy's work. He's not like one of my absolute favourite wrestlers or anything, but I've always liked him, and I've kind of always stuck up for him for a little bit over the years. I mean, I just feel like you look back, he's had a pretty damn good career, to be honest with you. I mean, there is speculation that he might be retiring soon. We don't know, because he hasn't wrestled since WrestleMania, and there's been rumours going around for a while that he's been dealing with a bad neck injury and stuff like that. So there is speculation that his career might be over now. And if it is, I think you can look back and be quite proud of the career he's had. I mean, he's been in WWE for what? Had a nice 10-year run in the WWE. Done certain stuff. Had some good matches, cut some good promos. I feel like one of the things I always liked about him as soon as I saw him is this guy just looked different. It was a really unique look. I mean, obviously, he's Irish, ginger Irish guy, so he's whiter than white. Like, not all white people are white, but this guy is like really, really white, like milk bottle white. I just always thought that was kind of a unique look, to be honest with you, especially when wrestlers they all like tan up and have fake tan and all that sort of baby oil and all that stupid shit on them. So it's especially when I think this became a big thing when WWE went HD in about 2008. Lots of guys are fake tanning up to look good on TV. And here comes Sheamus looking all white, and he's got the spiky ginger hair with the goatee. And he just kind of looked like a badass, to be honest with you. 6'6", 260 pounds of muscle. Just looked like a really solid guy, and obviously at the time, Irish. Because I think nowadays, the last few years, we've got a lot of different nationalities in WWE. But at the time, having wrestlers outside of the USA and Canada was quite rare, and I'm pretty sure Sheamus was I know it was Finlay, so Finlay and Sheamus were the first real Irish guys to have a run in WWE. And obviously now we got Becky Lynch, the man, Finn Balor from Ireland. But then you got Sheamus, so there's that accent as well. I think what a lot of problem people had with Sheamus, and I get it. I mean, I do agree to an extent that the guy just got. I think he got pushed so fast, so early in his career. He was never allowed to organically get over. And I think because of that, a lot of fans have had a resentment towards him, and kind of labeling one of WWE's chosen ones, which isn't altogether fair. But I get it. I understand people saying that because he debuted on ECW in about June of 2009, and I believe he moved on to the Raw brand in October, and then he was WWE champion by December. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Sheamus getting pushed to the WWE title was way too fast, and he definitely wasn't ready for the belt at that time. That being said, I think he did the best he could while he was WWE champion, 09 into early 10. I think he did because he had matches with Randy Orton, John Cena, then he lost the title in the Elimination Chamber, then actually had a WrestleMania match with Triple H at WrestleMania 26, which I thought was a good WrestleMania match, but not a great one. Then he kayfabe injured Triple H at Extreme Rules and took him out for a year. Then he got the WWE title back later on in 2010, had another feud with Randy Orton. I think because this was the time the whole Nexus thing was happening, and I guess like Sheamus as WWE champion was kind of a secondary thing on Raw. And then, ironically enough, after he lost the title, he probably then had his breakout feud. And who did he have his breakout feud with? John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H, CM Punk, Edge. Any of those guys? No. He had his breakout feud with John Morrison, of all people. I think him and John Morrison had a really good feud in late 2010. I mean, Sheamus beat Morrison to become the King of the Ring. They had a really entertaining Falls Count Anywhere match on Raw that year. They had a great match at TLC in 2010, a ladder match for the number one contendership, which Sheamus beat Morrison beat Sheamus, excuse me. Then he went to SmackDown in 2011, ended up turning babyface. I always liked him as a babyface because I always feel like there's just something likeable about him. He's got this likeable, funny personality that when he's allowed to show it is really good. Then, of course, 2012 happens, and this is where I feel like Sheamus gets a massive bad rap, in my opinion. So, Sheamus wins the 2012 Royal Rumble, which I think upset a lot of people because most of us were expecting and wanting Chris Jericho to win that year's Royal Rumble. Because at the time we knew Jericho was going to face Punk for the WWE title at WrestleMania 28. But no, WWE gave that to Sheamus. So I think that created a little bit of resentment. And then of course WrestleMania 28 happens. The whole 18-second thing with Daniel Bryan. I mean, we don't need to go into that again. That's being talked about death by me and various other people. But I think that definitely created a lot of resentment towards Sheamus. Although ironically, that was the thing that really got Daniel Bryan more popular than ever. But that World Heavyweight title run in 2012, I thought that was a really good title reign, to be honest with you. I mean, honestly, I really do. I think it's probably one of the most underrated world title runs in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, something like that. I mean, you had the great 2 out of 3 falls match with Bryan at Extreme Rules. A really underrated 4-way match with Randy Orton, Alberto Del Rio and Chris Jericho over the limit that year. Him and Dolph Ziggler had a really good opener at No Way Out 2012. The feud with Del Rio was This wasn't a terrible feud at all, but it wasn't great. Definitely wasn't great at all, to be honest with you. But then he had probably one of the most underrated feuds of the last of the 2010s with the Big Show of all people. I mean, Sheamus dropped the world title to the Big Show to Hell in a Cell, and that's one of the most surprisingly good matches ever. Because I can tell you right now, people were not excited for that match at all. Sheamus versus Big Show at Hell in a Cell, but they actually had a really, really good big man match where the Big Show won. And I think the follow-up matches were really good as well. Survivor Series and the TLC. Then he got injured in 2013. Kind of got stale for a little bit while. Then he came back in 2015 with a new look. He'd grown out a big mohawk and got the chant of, "You look stupid." And yeah, he did look stupid, I'll admit that. But I think it was a good change for him. And then kind of after that, he kind of struggled for a while. He won the Money in the Bank, but I don't think people were really excited for that. He was actually WWE I bet a lot of people forget about this. Sheamus was actually WWE champion as recently as 2015. That's right, because he was Money in the Bank holder and he cashed in on Roman Reigns at Survivor Series. Had a 1 month reign as champion before losing it to Roman Reigns the night after TLC. And that match was actually great. That's probably one of Sheamus' best ever matches, to be honest with you. And really one of Roman's first really good singles matches, to be honest. Then 2016, he wasn't really doing much that year. And then Sheamus and Cesaro happened. And Sheamus and Cesaro started off the feud and they had a best of 7 series, but that led to them becoming a tag team. At first a reluctant tag team, but eventually they got on, they started being friends and they came to the Bar. And to me, honest to God, I think the last 3 years, the Bar was probably one of the best tag teams in the entire world. Especially in 2017, I thought they had an absolutely awesome 2017. I mean, awesome. I thought they were great in 2017, especially on Raw. They had great feud of the Hardy Boys. I mean, they had some absolutely phenomenal matches with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. They had a great match with the Usos at Survivor Series. 2018 was kind of a slow starter on SmackDown, admittedly, but they did have a really good feud of the New Day, including a great match right before SummerSlam 2018 on SmackDown. Then obviously that's kind of fizzled out this year with them split up after WrestleMania and Cesaro going on to Raw to do pretty much nothing, and then Sheamus' career's in limbo at the minute. Will he make a return? Maybe. But like I say, I've always liked Sheamus for he had an interesting look and was always a solid worker. Not a great worker, but always a solid worker, and was pretty good on the mic and all that. So he's on my list. And coming in at number 1, my all-time guilty pleasure wrestler, Psycho motherfucking Sid. That's right, I've always liked this guy. Just always been a fan of this guy. I think this guy is just so cool. Whether that's Sid Justice, Psycho Sid, Sid Vicious, whatever he was called, whatever company he was in, I always found him entertaining. And it's probably not popular to say that because he's a big guy, 6'9", he's a slow big guy, he can't work, he can't do all these flips and all these nice fancy technical wrestler moves. Dave Meltzer doesn't even give him 3 stars and he's wrestling observer, all that. But this guy had the it factor for me. This guy had just something about him that I can't really explain, but you absolutely what's the word? Captivate. I was captivated by. I said, yeah, that's a word. That's a big word for me as well. Captivated. So this guy, for one, this guy had probably the coolest look for a wrestler ever. I mean, I challenge anyone to find a wrestler, except for maybe Brock Lesnar, who had a better look for wrestling than this guy. This guy just looked like a superstar. This guy looked like the sort of guy. This guy would kick the shit out of you with one snap of his finger, and he wouldn't even think twice about it. He could kill you. Look at him. The guy was huge. He had an awesome body, and he just looked like the hardest bastard you'll ever come across in your life. So because he had an awesome presence and the charisma, so much charisma. Was Sid a good worker? Absolutely not. Sid was slow, he was sloppy, he was terrible in the ring, but with the right guy in the right situations, he could have some really good matches. So it's not like Sid always had shitty matches. With the right guy, he did have good matches. I mean, some of the matches out of Chris Benoit, 99, and especially Sold Out 2000, really good. Survivor Series 1996 with Shawn Michaels was great, and other matches with Shawn Michaels and people like Bret Hart as well seem to always bring the best out of Sid. And to be fair, probably one of my most favourite underrated gems was Halloween Havoc 99 with Goldberg. That was a great feud. So Sid burst onto the scene in like the late 80s in NWA, WCW, teamed with Dan Spivey as the Skyscrapers. And that was good from early his career to team with a veteran like Spivey, learn to work. I mean, at the time, they always seemed to protect Sid. They wouldn't let him do stuff that he couldn't do. his role was limited in that respect. Then he became a Four Horseman in 1990. And that's a kind of an interesting fit. I mean, in one sense you think, Sid a Horseman? What? When you look at past Horsemen like Arn, Tully, Orley, Barry Windham, then Sid is like, huh? But he gave the Horsemen something they didn't have before. That badass monster heel that they could destroy the babyface. Now they kind of had that with Luger in '87, but I think it worked quite well here. Then he left the company in '91, went to the WWF to become Sid Justice, feuded with Hulk Hogan. Left there in '92, went back to WCW in 1993. Was gonna win the title for Vader Starrcade in 1993, but he almost hacked Arn Anderson to death and got fired. Yes. Then he came back, because I think the run I'm most familiar with Sid is when he came back to the WWF in 1995. Initially as Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, he was then rechristened Psycho Sid, was Shawn's bodyguard until WrestleMania 11. Then he turned heel on Shawn, joined the $1 Million Corporation, had a run with Diesel, left the company again in 1995, because it was always that Sid would be around for a bit, then he'd go, then he'd be around for a bit, then he'd go. Then he came back again in 1996 and had the best run of his entire career. He was a babyface going into So one few things I like about Sid, like I loved his promo style. I mean, I loved it. If he shouted like this, because I'm Psycho Sid, and all of a sudden his demeanour would change, and he'd talk slowly and softly like this. I am the master and the ruler of the world. And then he'd go back to shouting again. It was kind of awesome. And his entrance, I mean, the dude really did an absolutely magnificent job of doing that entrance music. That Psycho Sid music was absolutely awesome. And then Sid coming out, psyching himself up with the fans, fist bumping the fans and all that. I like this guy. I want to hang out with this guy. This guy's fucking cool. There's just something so cool about this guy. I probably said that a few times in this video, but that's what I always come back to when I think of the Psycho Sid. This guy just seemed cool as shit. I mean, he's the sort of guy that the guys wanted to be, and the women wanted to be with. If he'd stayed around for a period of time, and maybe even like got better as a worker, I think he could have been an excellent wrestler, to be honest with you. Then of course the whole thing was he was a 2-time WWF champion, and I always thought that was interesting. Sid's 96 and early 1997. I mean, Sid was kind of a tweener during this time. It was kind of interesting because this was a time period where heels and baby faces were kind of changing. I mean, because for years and years and years, you're either a babyface or a heel, and it was if you're a babyface, you acted one way, and if you're a heel, you acted the other way. It was kind of a cut and dry thing, but now we were getting these shades of grey, and I feel like Sid and Stone Cold Steve Austin were two of the first guys to really demonstrate this. So when you go to the Madison Square Garden match with Shawn Survivor Series, Sid ended up being the babyface, and that the crowd loved him. And then when he was feuding with Bret Hart, he was kind of half babyface, kind of heel. And then when he was wrestling Shawn Michaels at the Royal Rumble, that's in San Antonio, so Sid was clearly being a heel there. And then he was having those matches with Bret Hart in early 1997. Now this is when Bret was slowly turning heel. Sid was seen more of a babyface there. And then when he started wrestling The Undertaker at WrestleMania 13, he was clearly the heel in that match. So Sid was kind of going back and forth with heel and babyface for this period, really being a tweener more than anything. And it was just something I always found really interesting. Then of course Sid left the WWF in 1997. Then his final major run came in 1999 in WCW. Now that's another run I really enjoyed. I mean, let's be honest, WCW 1999 was pretty shite. I mean, especially when Sid came in. So bringing Sid in was actually a good move at the time. He was one of the few stars that wasn't either already in WCW and already outstayed the welcome, or locked up in the WWF, so it was kind of a good thing for them to get Sid. I mean, they brought Sid in initially as a heel, and he had one of the most underrated WCW feuds ever with Goldberg. I mean, it was just so simple. Goldberg was a badass, Sid was a badass, and they were going to fight each other. That's pretty much what the feud was. I mean, he was his first guy, one of the first guys that could really physically stand up to Goldberg. And he had two big matches, one at Halloween Havoc and then one at Mayhem 1999. Then in 1999, we discovered Sid has half the brain that Kevin Nash does. Yep. But despite all that, despite having half the brain that Kevin Nash does, Sid would then go on to have two WCW title reigns in 2000, and I always thought his second run in a period where WCW was absolutely shambolic, no doubt about that. I mean, we don't really need to go into the details of WCW in 2000 again. It's been done. It's been talked about. But I always thought Sid's title reign was solid. I mean, it was kind of a nice steady title reign because he was champion for about, I believe he won it in either January or early February, and then held it through all the way till April of 2000 when WCW did the reboot. So I think he did a steady job of trying to bring some stability to the belt and having a decent little title reign at the time. Then he disappeared, came back towards the end of 2000, had a feud with Scott Steiner, which included actually a pretty decent match at Starrcade, the Starrcade 2000 main event. And then the horrific leg break happened in Sin 2001. I'm sure you've seen it all before. Sid comes off the top rope of an axe handle, but then his leg literally snaps. I mean, that was awful. That was really just, That was one of the most disgusting leg breaks I've ever seen in wrestling. Truly was scary, and that was pretty much it for Sid as a wrestler. I think he did a few indie matches years later after that, but that pretty much ruined any comeback. And it was kind of funny, throughout the 2000s, I always kind of low-key wanted Sid to make a comeback. I mean, you'd always kind of hear whispers about, I guess this is about 06, 07 time, maybe 08, that Sid was trying to get back into WWE and all that. And that, even for a short run, I kind of think it would have been interesting, because at the time, Sid was in his mid-40s at the time. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't advocating Sid to come back to dominate, to be the WWE champion or any of that. But he's the sort of guy that could have come in, beaten up some smaller mid-cards. Cards for a while got built up to face maybe a John Cena or a Batista, have a pay-per-view match of either of the two, lose that match, and then kind of be on his way after that. But that's for me anyway. And so Sid's definitely a guy who I think should definitely go to do a Hall of Fame in the future. In fact, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't, to be honest with you. But I guess timing maybe. I'm sure at some point in time Sid will go into WWE Hall of Fame, and I for one will be happy about that. So that's a wrap for this guy's week. And just to let you know, if you're watching this video now, I'm going to do a Fear 5 next week, and this one's going to be based around, because in October the 2nd, AEW is going to start the TV show, right? We believe it's going to be AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite, but that's not confirmed yet. So going with this theme, I'm going to go back to a time where there was another TV show to rival the WWE, and that was WCW Monday Nitro back in the day. And I'm going to go for Fear 5 WCW Monday Nitro moments. So thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, peace.